Good day, engineering thinkers, and welcome to our podcast show, Engineering Thinking by IK. I'm your host, Sean, for this episode. And if you're an aspiring engineer or someone that is just interested to think like an engineer, you have a home here with us. Thank you for joining us today. And we have got an exciting episode for you in this segment. Our guest for today has over 20 years of field experience. He spent 13 years in Simulex as the Vice President of Technology, before co-founding Moneyline Incorporated, where he was the Chief Technology Officer for a decade. So that's a lot of experience. He is now with YTL-AI Labs, where he's heading the initiative there as part of YTL-SEA Digital Bank Project. Mr. Foong Chee Mun, thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you very much.
So to all our engineering thinkers out there, you know, for that our first segment, we're going to concentrate on the origin story of our engineering guest. We believe that all our engineering guests are heroes and they strive to make the world a better place. So like every good hero story, it's got to have an origin, a starting point. So we're going to learn that from Mr. Foong today. So Mr. Foong, what was your inspiration to become an engineer?
There are a few of it. First and foremost, I have my dad. He was a certified accountant. Yet, in his business, he has a furniture manufacturing business, and he was responsible for operationalizing, configuring, and modifying all of the machineries in the factories. And his passion towards the machinery, and he's really playing the role of a chief engineer within his own business. And I used to follow him to the factories a lot, and saw him work, and saw his passion towards the machineries, and that sort of inspired me to be hands-on in engineering problems, in creating stuff. And then during my high school time, Sekolah Menengah time, I went to Sekolah Menengah Kebun Baru, where one of the teachers there set up a club, an invention club, what they call Club Reka Cipta. And I was the first batch of students that joined the club. So that was when I get my first cut of creating stuff. Creating projects. The physical projects that we created went on to won a whole bunch of awards, and that gives me the window, and they give me the courage actually to think that, hey, this might be something that I want to do for the rest of my life, which is continuously be creating things. Then I went to Purdue University. It's a really good engineering school, and you are being mentored by good engineering professors, and there are a lot of history around the university, and that's really when I get the skill to continuously be creating things and inventing things.
So we heard from Mr. Foong that he had very early hands-on experience, and that sort of gave you the confidence and the motivation to keep pursuing the pathway of engineering. Now, we're going to ask Mr. Foong a little bit about his time at Purdue University, because I know a lot of you are studying or aspiring to join tertiary education in the engineering faculty. So, Mr. Foong, can you tell us if you encountered any challenges or difficulty when you were studying engineering at Purdue?
It's tough, I think, and you're talking about more than 25 years ago, right? So the culture wasn't as assimilated as of now. In this day and age, I look at my son. He knows a lot of stuff that is going on in the U.S. And everywhere around the world. Whereas during my time, the internet was at its inception, so it wasn't very prevalent yet. So when I first gone to Purdue, the culture clash or the culture shock was pretty bad. Took me a while to get used to just simple stuff, right? For example, we are using metrics here, meter. Over there, they use feet, and then all of your physics intuition were gone So that took a while to get used to. But after a while, and the truth is that I was always a decent student in high school. And when I moved to Purdue, where competition was a lot higher, I still remember I was quite proud when I get there. I get to skip 2 math classes, but my roommate at the time, he managed to skip the whole undergraduate math classes, and the first class that he took was a master student math class. So that taught me a very deep lesson, is that regardless of how smart you are, someone else is smarter than you.
So can you tell us a little bit about, you mentioned the culture clash, right? And I'm sure a lot of engineering students who want to study abroad will experience that, isn't it? And you mentioned that they use the imperial system as opposed to the metric system that we do here. So obviously for measurement and calibration, that's very important for engineering. And so to get that challenge of different units of measurement, how did you remain passionate and motivated despite all those difficulties? What kept you going?
It's the fact is that when I first arrived at Purdue, that was during the time of internet boom, and Purdue University is at the Midwest of the United States, so it is also at the central of all the network, the internet network, and because it's at the central of it, there were a lot of companies, computer companies, that came to Purdue to set up labs, and thus it was when I look at some of my friends who went elsewhere to study, they have the ratio of 3 students per computer. At Purdue, I think you have the ratio of 1 student for 5 computers, and you have all sorts of computers. You have like silicon graphic computers. I don't know if most of the audience here know, like there are WANG computing, the Sun Microsystems, you name it, they have it. So and anyone can use them. So for an engineer, it is like going to a buffet. That you can use all sort of
spoil for choice.
Right. And at the time, the computer system was a lot more fragmented. Nowadays, you have Windows and you have Macs, right, and you have Linux. That's about it. But at the time, you have all sort of operating system, including like Next operating systems. You obviously have Macintosh, Windows, and at the time you have Unix, HP make like workstations, and all these computers used to cost a lot of money, and it was at our disposal at the time.
Yeah, so to our viewers out there, so now we're going to ask Mr. Foong about how he believed Purdue prepared him for the workplace and the skills you learned while you were at Purdue. And obviously you said that where it was located, it was sort of like a buffet for someone as interested in computing, in sort of the new technology of internet, right? We take that for granted nowadays, but back during that time, it's a very cutting edge thing, right? Not everyone had access to a smartphone or anything like that. And computers, like you said, were very high cost.
Yeah, very high cost.
So how do you feel your overall experience at Purdue prepared you for your career to come?
There is no question that it gave me a very good foundation towards what came in the next 20, 25 years. One of the major things that I did at Purdue is the fact that, and I always encourage people, you don't go to university just to study. The good thing about like Purdue University or any of these research university is the fact that it has a lot of research labs, and it has a lot of research professors as well. So one of the things that I did was I joined an AI research lab at Purdue for a different reason at the time, because that was when I wanted to go on a summer vacation, and I didn't have enough. I had enough money, but I didn't feel good to use my dad's money to go on vacation. So what I did is that I worked at that AI research lab simply because it paid the most money. So
some creative thinking happening there.
Yes. So I joined the AI research lab, and what the AI research lab did was it specialized on this very specific type of AI called agent-based modeling and simulation. What it does is that we did human behavior predictions at the time, mostly for the Department of Defense. And you can see how that eventually led to my first career, my first job, which is founding this company called Similex, with a couple of professors, the professors that were leading the lab that I was working in. So yes.
So it's important to so initiative was important in your sense that you actually took the initiative to join the lab, and so that gave you the connections for you to actually start Similex.
I took the initiative to go on summer vacation.
It worked out very well, obviously, but that's going to be a very excellent way to wrap up the first segment. So we get to learn about Mr. Foong's origin story, which is very interesting, and we're going to continue that with the next segment, which is the highlight. So stay tuned. Engineering Thinkers, welcome back to our second segment. We have reached the highlight of the show, where we get our guest, Mr. Foong in this case, to share a case study from a project they've led, and we're going to see if we can glean any amazing lessons and insights from him today. So, Mr. Foong, can you share with us a case study that you would like to share and tell our audience for today?
I wouldn't call this a case study, but this is essentially something that happened when I was running Moneyline, and it sort of shows the power of AI from actually both sides. There is an advantage of it, and there is a certain downside of it. What happened is that I think 2 years into Moneyline, Moneyline is a neobank in the US, which I co-founded with a couple of buddies of mine. So we always want to be, we wanted to be a AI and technology-oriented bank that serve the middle-income Americans. But to run a bank, obviously, the way that you make money with a bank is to write loans, right? So we were writing loans at the time, so because of my background, we already started using AI to score each of the creditworthiness of these people, and we have 2 or 3 scores that is associated with each of the users, that applicants, right? So, and then we have a whole bunch of human underwriter to look at the score and decide if they want to take loans, if we want to approve the loan or not. Okay, so and then what happened is that there one day, my buddy, the CEO, his name is D, he pulled me into the office saying, "Hey, we have, I think at the time we have 60 human underwriters," and he said, "Hey, managing these 60 human underwriters was challenging, and we wanted to increase our own loan number of loans that we were writing, and because of that, if you want to increase 20% of amount of loans that we are writing, we need 20% more human underwriters. It's just as simple as that, right? Because each of human underwriter can go through like 3 or 4 loans a day. So he said, like, hey, why don't we do this? Why don't we like take the most, take 10% of the applicants that we think the human underwriter are most likely gonna be agreeing with the machine, and automatically underwrite it, right?
So it saves time.
To just bypass human, the top 10%.
I see,
the
okay.
top 10% that we are most likely gonna approve, we'll just approve using computer, just bypass the human. So we did it with the top 10%, and it was really successful because firstly, it's fast and it's cheap because there's no human involved, and thirdly is that it's consistent, right? Because human judgment, a lot of times, if you catch a human when during the time that the person is hungry, the person might be of a foul mood. So we started with 10%, and it was great. We managed to increase the loan volume of 10% with the same amount of human underwriter. And of course, the story goes, when you start with 10%, then you do the next 10%. And I think in the period of about 6 months, everything was automated, So and
Just
thus,
starting from 10%, you went all the
Yes.
way to nearly
Yes.
or full automation in this
Right.
case. That's
And
incredible.
then after that, after we automated everything, the loan volume was increased 100-fold, 1,000-fold. And now it's billions of dollars per year of loans underwritten entirely using AI with zero human underwriter. And that was amazing. And this is, however, I mentioned the 60 or 70 human underwriters. And the downside of this kind of technology is that they were being laid off. But the upside of it is that it's really good for the company that is doing this.
Okay. So, Mr. Foong, now you mentioned about Moneyline and the success story you had with automation, right? But I want to ask you, you clearly had an innovative mind, right? After you finished your studies and you had your career in Simulex, then you co-founded Moneyline. And so you had the sort of the pathway from graduating from Purdue, and then now you were a business leader, this time your second time. I would like to ask you, based on that success story you just shared with me, how did you actually accumulate those leadership skills?
As an entrepreneur, you almost never ask yourself what skill you want to accumulate or train yourself. You almost have to always learn on the fly to solve the next problem that you need to solve. For example, when I was in the research lab, I did a lot of 3D visualization. So I was like almost a front-end person. But then when I got into Simulex, obviously the simulator is extremely important. So which means there are a lot of back-end work. So I became a back-end engineer, right? And then we start hiring more people. Then I became a tech lead, and then I became so it is mainly driven by the business need to a certain degree. And then obviously I'm always a technical guy, so I fall into like a CTO type of role all of the time. Quite.
It's not like you just open a book and then you just learn leadership that way, right? Obviously,
you had to open books anyways. You
that's
you need something, and then you just open the books and
right.
start learning it. But a lot of times, you almost have to apply it almost immediately. And the transition is very interesting, right? Like I think we are all engineers here, and the main thing is that engineers love technical stuff, love hands-on stuff, and that's what I did, right? And that's what I did. And engineers love complexity. After a while, you learn that it's bad for you, but generally, engineers love complexity. As the more complex something is, the more we want to do it. But then again, after a while, I realized that instead of learning how to focus on how to build things, which is really important, we have to learn about why are we building something, and why are we building something should be at the top of your mind. And I think learning to shift from how to build something to why you build something makes you a better engineer. Constantly asking why you build something actually will guide how to build something better. And there was like a personal transition as well, right? Because when you start managing people, which means that you don't get to be hands-on as much, and which means that your first love was trying to be hands-on anyway. But eventually, the business drive you in such a way that you cannot be as hands-on as you need. And when you are transitioning from like a tech lead or VP of engineering to more of a CTO or CEO type of role, then there's another transition, right? Then you are looking into, then you have to be really first principle driven. You will also have to identify like different type of barrier that you need to identify which barrier to overcome, right? So you have to think from a first principle standpoint, and from any businesses, your first principle is the satisfaction of your customers, right? So that became, and you have to be laser focused on that, and that will inform you how to build the right team. That in turn figure out how to build the right digital systems to serve your customers. So all this kind of thinking, a person has to be ready to transition to the next level. And the way that you think has to evolve at the same time. And when I say, and when you are at the level of being a CTO, you don't just think about, like your like programming in this particular example, database configuration or database design. You don't just think about that. Like when I say you have to think about, from a first principle standpoint, there's customer satisfaction, meeting the customer needs. You also, that is really what another field called product management is all about. So which means that to be a better engineer, you will have to learn the adjacent disciplines as well. In this particular case will be product management, right? And beyond that, if you want your customer to, if you want to solve problem for your customer, it is really important to understand what other people, your competitors are doing as well, so that you are better than them, right? Or you find a niche that your customer will do. So which means that you will need to do customer competition analysis as well. So which means that you really have to become a businessman instead of just an engineer itself. But being a businessman makes you a better engineer because you build the right thing.
Okay, so it's kind of like synergistic, almost like mutualistic in a way. The relationship between being entrepreneur, leader, and engineer, sort of they all come together and they converge. The skill sets converge because it's necessary, right? You did it not because it's just something you decided. It's a necessity to be successful.
I did it because I wanted to be a better engineer.
There you go. Yes. That's excellent. Now I wanted to go back to something you mentioned, which were the obstacles. Now, so when you were at Moneyline and you talked about the efficiency and the automation, surely there was some obstacles regarding like the development of that, or because you're working with cutting edge technology, right, at that point in time. So how did you use sort of your engineering skills to overcome some of, say, the development issues with, automating so many different processes?
I think one of the main things is that when you are in the field of digital system building, it's an ever evolving field, and which means that first and foremost, you have to be very quick in learning new technology and be able to apply it to what you're working on. There is a saying that the future is here. It's just not evenly distributed, which is true. Like you can see a lot of companies are still using very old tech, and usually companies that are very forward-thinking in adopting new tech will beat the company that are laggard in technology adoption. So in Moneyline, when you run a startup, you have 1,000 problems a day. So most of the problem that we have, we try to solve it with technology, with artificial intelligence. Case in point being the problem, it was a business scalability problem, but we solve it using artificial intelligence. So those are challenging, and of course in that episode, the most challenging thing is not creating the AI. Creating the AI is tough, but the most challenging thing is not creating the AI. Is when we have to lay off the human underwriters, which some of them are actually my personal friends.
Understandable. Okay, so that's definitely one of the challenges that you have to overcome was, the human aspect of it,
right,
not just the AI and machine learning part. So I did want to ask you also, since you're in the digital banking sort of business and you're very experienced in it, people are concerned with Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies. I'm sure you're well versed in those exchanges, and they seem to be very susceptible to attacks and theft. So I think a lot of our audience here would also like to know, how did you manage security, security concerns when it comes to digital banking?
Yeah, the truth is that there are a lot more experts in the field of Web3, blockchain, and whatnot. I am not one of the experts. I call myself the expert of like digital banking or AI, but less about Web3 stuff.
Yeah.
But essentially, being we pay a lot of attention to cybersecurity, and it's all about hygiene. Firstly, you have to patch up most of the vulnerabilities, and being a digital bank, you are highly. That's the digital channel is the only channel your customer get to interact with you. So to protect that channel is extremely important. So in order to do it well, the only thing you can do is to constantly be employing what we call the white hat hackers.
White hat hackers.
To constantly try to breach you. What we call penetration testing, and be really realistic or honest about, okay, you have so many holes, and software development or system development, you generally, as you have new features, you inadvertently will create certain holes. So, and MoneyLion is one of the top 5 digital bank in the US. So it's reasonably high profile. We were being attacked by Russians and like international mafias. So we learned to react very quickly. We learned to pay a lot of attention whenever we release new products. Releasing new products is when things can go wrong, or you inadvertently introduce certain security holes.
So I want to ask you as well, Mr. Foong, because you mentioned talent, acquisition, right? You said you hired white hat hackers, and then obviously you have engineers and software developers. What are some of the qualities you look for in individuals that are joining, say, MoneyLion, for example? Sort of what are some of the engineering qualities you look for, or other qualities that you look for in someone joining?
That's a good question. It might be a bit abstract, but I always look for people with having 2 opposite quality at the same time. For example, I want people that are very analytical and yet creative at the same time. So 2 seemingly opposite quality, but I try to find people that are having these 2 opposite quality at the same time. And there are multiple these like pair like quality that I always want to look for. For example, very hardworking people, yet at the same time you always find shortcuts. So these are the few.
So contradictory qualities almost.
Correct.
And why is that? If I may ask, why do you look for these sort of 2 ends of the different?
To me is that then it sort of exemplified the fact that the person are always on the go, because you are not in an equilibrium, which means that you're always trying to find solution to something. And if it's a polar opposite, then your job is never done. So I like to work with people who always feel that their job is never done.
So now I want to go back once again to MoneyLion, right? Because we spent quite some time in MoneyLion. So we do want to know a little bit about how your entrepreneurial spirit sort of carried on from after you graduated from Purdue, and you formed Simulex and then MoneyLion. So what were some of the things that motivated you to start business after business?
The first time that I got into Simulex is simply because I was working in the AI lab, and I thought, hey, AI is really interesting. And at the time, there's no company working on AI. So and then this professor said, hey, you want to start a company and you got to work on AI? I was like, that sounds great. So eventually we work on this problem space, and during Simulex, we do, again, human behavior predictions for the Department of Defense, which means that we do city predictions or economic prediction for countries like Afghanistan, Iraq, and whatnot, right? So those were fun, those were important, but the predictions are like always 10 years, 20 years away. So and then when we sold the company to a defense contractor, I was looking for what to do, and I thought like, hey, the next thing to do, the next prediction that I'm gonna do I want to know if it's right or wrong really fast. So essentially, then there was I think there was 2013, and that was at the tail end of the great financial crisis. A lot of major banks are retreating from the middle Americans. So that's when me and a couple of buddies just thought, hey, we should serve them. And the big banks are not not retreating because they don't like them. It's simply because the cost of serving them becomes too expensive. And it's not worth it, right? So we think that we can do a better job providing good most private banking services to middle American. With technology and AI, we should be able to lower the cost to a point that we can be profitable.
I see.
So as you can see, I moved from being really caring about, the technical field that I was in to the end product, who we want to serve and how we want to serve. So that was a major transition over that 10, 13 years that I learned to be more first principle driven.
Very, very inspiring to hear about that. But we want to ask Mr. Foong now, obviously, some of the skills of communication that is important. So when you were establishing, say, MoneyLion, and you wanted to get investors or people interested in the business, how did you manage to communicate such a sort of alien concept like AI and banking? Because I think at that time, it's not something that was commonplace, right? So how did you actually use communication skills, and why is it so important?
The truth is that when you sell to investors, a lot of times you sell what problem you're solving. And you also have to impress upon your investors that you know how to solve it. With that, you walk the fine line of being technical enough to show that you are not avoiding detail, but layman enough that they understand that why your solutions can solve the problem that the users have in a differentiated way. So and that is a fine skill, and it took I think in MoneyLion I presented to maybe more than 100 investors. So during that time, the skill will hone.
So the education and awareness was a very important part of MoneyLion's success too, right? Because you had to communicate all these ideas to people not familiar with the concept. And hopefully as the episode goes on for the show today, all our audiences out there, our engineering thinkers, will learn more and more about AI moving forward. So thank you very much for staying with us. Our next segment, the creative section, look forward to it. Stay tuned. Engineering thinkers, welcome back. We're now at the final segment of our show today, which is the creative section. And this is going to be really exciting because we're going to hear from an AI expert, of course, our guest, Mr. Foong, who's going to tell us a bit about how he feels AI is going and how it's going to impact all of you out there who are aspiring engineers and engineering thinkers. So Mr. Foong, AI is a very exciting field. Of course, you're heading the YTL AI labs. Can you give us a bit of a primer, maybe what do you see happening within the next 5 years in terms of AI development?
Yeah, so for that, let's go back in time and to understand why AI is so prevalent or so powerful right now. So during the first platform shift I have ever encountered, which is the internet platform shift, we sort of democratized digital data. The cost of distribution became zero. The cost of data distribution becomes zero, right? So and that gave birth to like a lot of informational system. Informational system used to be siloed. Suddenly it becomes democratized. Suddenly you can access it from everywhere in the world. And then the second platform shift was a cloud platform shift, right? Suddenly you don't have to order a lot of machines if you want to start a company, right? Or when you have a lot of users that suddenly is curious about your product, you can easily scale it up and scale it down later on, right? So and that give birth to what we call infrastructure as code. The the fact that you just need to code in order to spin up infrastructure, to me that is a game changer, right? So and then the third platform shift is a mobile platform shift. Suddenly, you don't just engage with the computer at home. You get to engage it 24/7 because you have a supercomputer in your pocket, right? So all of this platform shift eventually contributed towards the AI platform shift, because what AI is that it is algorithm plus data plus computation, right? So the internet gives us like a whole bunch of data. The mobile gives us even more data simply because we interact with computer system 24/7. So it gives even more data. And then the cloud computing gives us very scalable computational power. So all of these contribute to how AI is so powerful today. And the newest technological shift in AI is what we call the generative AI. And how that differ from other AI, the previous generation was mainly supervised learning. What it means is that you give the computer a whole bunch of data and you say like, okay, this is the outcome of it, and you use it to predict the outcome, right? So and that was mostly driven by deep learning and neural networks, circa 2013 or so. And you have this new generative AI, which started about a couple of years ago. And what that technology does and fundamentally change how we deal with computing is that previously we have to speak the computer language. To make the computer do something, you have to speak the computer language. For example, you need to type in a command, or you need to type in Python code or Java code to make the computer do something for you. Or you have software developer that develop user interface that you can click through to tell the computer to do something for you. And that is what we call the von Neumann computing system, where you have to speak the computer language, and when you speak the same computer language, the output of the computer is always deterministic, which means that it's always the same, right? So generative AI actually fundamentally changed that, and this about 60, 70 years of computing history was changed, because now what we call the large language model computer, the computer is able to understand you or the human language rather than the computing language. And what's interesting is that because human language is probabilistic, unlike computer code, you have a very specific meaning. Human language meaning can be quite abstract and can mean multiple things. So which means, interestingly, the output of the computer become probabilistic, which means that you enter the same thing into the LLM computer, it might output different thing.
So it's unpredictable, almost.
Yes, it's almost like talking to a human.
Oh, that's very interesting.
So there's generative AI, and I think that is very exciting, because in the next few years, just imagine like it doesn't just take human languages, it can also easily take in artifacts that were created for human consumption. For example, news articles, right? So it is able to understand the meaning of the news articles. So which means that you can actually write spider like whole bunch of news article and be able to watch something using a computer, right? So I think that fundamentally changed how we interact with computer. And I think in the next 5 years, businesses will find ways to capitalize on these functionality to make computer system a lot more user friendly, a lot more part of like our human interactions, rather than a very specialized user interface that is created to limit their interaction with computers.
So I want to ask you, Mr. Foong, and I'm sure our audience also would like to know, because you're talking about generative AI, and this is it's quite new. You said it's only been a couple of years old, right? And it's probabilistic, it's kind of unpredictable, it's like speaking to a person. But I think some people, especially a lot of our engineers who want to broaden their horizons, think about being a business leader like you, entrepreneurs and starting a business, how can they, if they want to start a business, how can they capitalize on this amazing new technology, do you think? What can they do to prepare?
I think starting a business using a new technology is something that I think the only way, I mean, when you try to do a business, like when you try to say open a coffee shop, you're not reinventing anything. You're just adding certain level of business to the same demand that people have, right? When there is a new technology, you get to potentially discover new demand. For example, there was no such thing as demand for social network before the social network being implemented.
Yeah.
There is no such thing as messaging demand before WhatsApp being invented. Well, there were SMS, but and you can see technology can fundamentally change human behavior and demand. For example, I don't remember the exact number, but I think when Grab was invented, before Grab was invented, I think we have certain amount of taxi drivers, but after Grab was invented, I think you have close to 100 times more drivers. So which means that the demand increased by 100 times. And you can see how inventing with technology potentially change human behavior and change demand for your product. The key point is to focus less on technology. Grab use AI, Uber use AI, but it's not the AI you're buying; it's the ride that you're buying, right? So focusing on fundamental human needs is something that and be able to solve it using technology can be. I think is the cornerstone of entrepreneurship, and I think it should be really encouraged because this kind of companies really solve day-to-day problems with a lot of consumers. For example, in this day and age, I order Uber Eats like pretty much on a daily basis, and that cannot be possible without a huge amount of technology and operations that.
So you're saying that actually the most important thing is that the technology, in this case AI, is facilitating a true human demand for something.
Correct.
So the human connection and thinking socially about that is very important.
Right. Go back to first principle, understanding what do you think, what are the problems that you want to solve for the users, the customers, and in this particular thing is that I think Grab was trying to solve, transportation issue, right, which a lot of us have that demand. So understanding that and then go backward and say, okay, what kind of AI that might be useful, what kind of product or what kind of operations or teams that can be useful to solve this kind of problem in a differentiated way, right? Because if you're doing the same thing as the old taxi company, you're just adding amount of taxi company and you're going with the same pie of demand. But in this particular case, it's obvious that Grab managed to untap tap into like a whole new.
They discovered a whole new market segment that was untapped by the legacy sort of companies. And so I want to ask you as well, Mr. Foong, and I'm sure a lot of our viewers are interested too. There's been a lot of misinformation about AI, and there's a lot of fear out there that AI is just out to get their jobs or their opportunities when they graduate from university. And I'd like to ask you that that's not only sensationalist, that's probably not true, and there's actually going to be a lot more opportunities for young engineers moving forward. Isn't that right?
Definitely. I think in the sort of like the post-AI world, I think how we think about job can be different. Actually, it doesn't even have to be post-AI world, right? It's the arc of technology, right? For example, my job title, which is a CTO. When I was growing up, there's no one called a CTO, right? During the invention of the internet, there is this title called CISO, right? Chief Information Security Officer. There is no such thing, and data scientist was invented like 10 years ago. So most likely than not, even if you are engineers, your title is something that you probably cannot even imagine going forward. And this translates not just for yourself. When you run a business, most likely than not, you will have to hire positions that the world never heard of, right? So the era that parents want you to be like lawyer, architect, and whatnot could be quite over simply because your parents, and this including myself, right? I have an 11-year-old kid, and I have no advice whatsoever on what he can be, because most likely than not, his job is not being invented yet.
See, so to all our viewers out there, be optimistic, be excited for AI. And Mr. Foong clearly is very passionate about the subject. And so we've asked Mr. Foong about the trends he sees happening, right? And we're going to ask him a little bit about maybe some of the challenges he believes is waiting for, say, companies here in Malaysia or even abroad. What are some sort of challenges do you foresee for a company, a legacy company that's quite mature? How can they sort of use AI to modernize and to adapt to the things that you're looking into? And not just necessarily in the banking either, just in general, yeah.
Right, so I think when you have such, if you think about the history of technology is that like the invention of computer in general or database in general is replacing like the old book rack or document rack that you have. Like it's just digitizing the whole it used to be like account books and whatnot, right? And then the inventions of and it also digitize like the books, right? There's no longer like account books that you need to do. It's all in the database, right?
Yep.
And then we have software as a service that sort of like give the accountant software to do the accounting properly, right? So, but you still have the guy who use the software. AI is threatening to replace that guy. So, which means that for companies, the structure of the company has to change according to the way that the technology is moving. Case in point is that for the longest time, the function of AI and analytics generally is small in most companies, and generally is within the technology or IT arm. But the advancement of it is that it is so democratized that you can get insights from your data, hidden insights from your big data, and being able to do product with it, right? So which means that like in this day and age, the analytics team can easily be in the strategy office or the business office, because it is closest to the business, and that's how business should be run, which is entirely be data driven. So the morphing of this kind of department has to be constant in really competitive companies. And there's a saying that you're probably not going to be replaced by AI, but you are going to be replaced by people who use AI correctly or use AI very well. Same thing with companies. The companies that doesn't use AI very well will be replaced by companies that use AI very well.
I see. And so, Mr. Foong, since you've given the advice that people should modernize, should adopt AI as part of their business doctrine, then perhaps what are some things that people can do to educate themselves and be more aware of what's actually available to them, right? The solutions and things like that. Like what does, for example, the YTL AI Labs, what do you guys do in terms of outreach to let people know that actually AI is there to move the country forward and to move business forward, for example?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So I think the main thing is when surprisingly when we think about AI is that you can never outcompute a computer. You can outhuman a computer, right? So what AI Lab wants to do is to look at solutions that focus on helping businesses to be more efficient. In fact, we always look into we don't look into problems where we display certain tasks of one or two people. We look at tasks that is being carried out by a group of people, and because the lower hanging fruit, I think, is that to make AI a supercomputer instead of to make AI a superhuman rather than a regular human. So instead of replacing an accountant, you replace a team of like a risk compliance people, right? So for example, the example I just gave you, right? Like you need a team of people that in a bank or in big companies, there is always a risk team that looks into a lot of information sources and come up with a risk rating. And that team, most of the work can be done with AI quite effectively, and you will be able to screen more data sources, and it will work tirelessly for you. And most likely than not, the energy usage for that that software program will probably be a lot less than, like, say, 10 human.
That's incredible. So it's not just productivity-wise; it's energy efficient too.
Yes.
So, that's a very important lesson as well to our viewers out there. There's actually a lot of developments happening in AI, so it's very important that all of you out there keep tabs with it. And don't be misled by sensationalist articles. Listen and take advice from actual AI experts like Mr. Foong here, and always keep that in mind. And also, it's a bright future ahead, so don't be part of the doom and gloom in terms of AI and machine learning. All right, thank you very much for joining us for the last segment, and then I'm going to go ahead and close out and thank our sponsors next. Stay tuned. Engineering thinkers, I'd like to thank you so much for tuning in today, but special thanks obviously to Mr. Foong from YTL-AI Labs for sharing with us all this great insight and his experience all the way from Purdue to YTL. And obviously there's going to be so much more exciting news related to AI and machine learning, so I hope all you guys take everything that Mr. Foong said today to heart and learn from it and benefit from it. Special thanks also to our media partners, Group, Berhad, and their amazing crew here. And obviously they've hosted the set here for us as well, for which their assistance is absolutely crucial for the show's success. And always remember, engineering thinkers, what we always end on: greater engineers,
Greater world.
Thank you.
I hope that you guys are excited in this new world of AI, and you remember, you always play the most important role in determining the future. To predict the future is to make it.
Hello engineering thinkers, thank you for joining us in our program today. We'd like to invite you to like, subscribe, hit the notification button, and also follow us on our other platforms such as Buzzsprout, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. The links for all those will be in the description below. Thank you very much for joining us for this episode, but we have so much more planned for you, so make sure you don't miss out on exciting guests and topics to come. Cheers!